Hi, everybody. This is Maxine Taylor, America's first licensed astrologer, and I am here with my United States forecast for the month of April 2023. Some of you know, because I've spoken with you, that I waited to do this forecast until Trump's arrest yesterday. I felt like anything else was premature. And so this is why I'm doing it today. And I think everybody's got their opinion. I'm not going to be talking about Trump. I'm going to be talking about the United States, my country. 'Tis of thee, sweet land of liberty. And so Trump had his day in court, and now it's time for us to move forward and see what all's happening next. So here I am. I'm going to start, first of all, with, as many of you know, the sun. Can you see it? Now, the sun is the giver of life, and it circles your birth chart, it circles my birth chart. It is, and so I'm dealing with the transiting or circling sun and what it activates in the United States chart. Okay, so it is sitting in the 11th house. And for those of you who've been following my videos, you know that there is a regular human birth chart and there is a mundane birth chart. The chart of a country or a business is a mundane chart, and it's interpreted a little bit differently than the birth chart. So this is it's very interesting. So let me share it with you so you'll understand why. The sun in the 11th house. Some of you already know it because you have been taking notes on every video I've done. Congratulations. I'm so glad that you're getting information. And some of you, from what I understand, have become quite good at interpreting a chart from my videos. Give yourself a gold star. So in a mundane chart, the 11th house, where the sun has been, deals with Congress, congressmen and congresswomen, legislation, the treasury, all kind of city councils, government councils, state councils, and our country's friends. It's all kind of group activity. But the 11th house in a mundane chart deals with our friends from a humanitarian side more than a personal side. Okay, on the 13th, the sun moves into the 12th house. Now, some of you know where I'm going with this because the sun has been here before. So has Mercury and Venus and Mars. All right. The 12th house is all hidden. Now you might say, but in my birth chart, Max, it's spiritual. That's true. In your birth chart, the 12th house is the spirit plane. And yes, it is behind the scenes activities as well. So in a mundane chart, the 12th house is sort of nefarious. You may have noticed because it is ruled by bribery, bribes, spies, hidden enemies, and these can be enemies within your own camp, of course, prison, jail, hospitals, crime, criminals, Because it's hidden. They get away with it. And some criminals like to test the parameters of what they can get away with. And very often we see this in politics, and I think we're seeing it now. All right. Charitable institutions, seclusion, secret societies and organizations, slaves of all types. You can be an emotional slave to someone, and welfare. So on the 13th, the sun moves into all that. And we would expect that because now that Trump has been arrested, there's a lot of behind the scenes or backdoor arrangements, conversations, perhaps pacts going on. I never expect for 12th house to surface because it's 12th house. It's in your birth chart, it's the subconscious. In a mundane chart, such as a country's chart, it is everything I just read. Everything. Everything. Okay, so the sun sits on the anti-vertex. Oh, on the 23rd. The anti-vertex is that area of life where you have control. And that is what is going on. The month of April, of course. It will be sitting there in the 12th house all month. Now, I want to talk about the new moon and the full moon. All right. Remember, 11th house, 12th house. We have a full moon. We had a full moon early this morning. It was in 16 of Libra. You might want to look in your own birth chart and see where that fell. Give it a 5-degree orb. So from 11 Libra to 21 Libra. It is sitting on Saturn. Now, Saturn is reality. In a mundane chart, now let me back up. Many of you know I've done your chart, I've done your family's chart, I've done your business chart, I've done your puppy's chart. You know that I always look at what's right with you. I tell you what's great about you, because when you focus on that, guess what? That's what you become. In a mundane chart, we're dealing with millions of people. And unfortunately, I have to refer back to the old-timey astrological interpretations of the planets. Saturn, which is traditionally a malefic, simply because it rules fear and resistance. It rules the should and ought to people in your life who would attempt to restrict you. Okay, it is in the 5th house of fun and games and children. And when I think in terms of children, I think of the latest atrocity that occurred to 9 people at an elementary school. Was it? I don't remember if it was elementary or middle school. And I can see where this would certainly manifest. We absolutely, we have to do something about guns. And it has been said, and it is time to do something about it. Now, I have my own opinion. When I say, oh, we need to do something about it, you know, I don't offer a complaint, a problem without a solution. But I'm an astrologer. I can't implement what I would like. And so the way I do it is I vote for the people who represent my thinking, which is peace and love and joy and abundance. And there aren't too many. You may have noticed. Okay, let's get back to this. Saturn. Saturn in the fifth house is reality. It is sorrow, sadness, and it is responsibility, which I interpret as respond to your ability as an adult. Respond to your ability as a leader when it comes to children. It is time to shut down those organizations that provide the type of weapon that just totally obliterates a body when it is shot. So that's just one woman's opinion. So in the fifth house, let me tell you, fifth house is children. It's fun. I don't think the parents of the children who lost their children to crazy people think it's fun. Gambling, the theaters, sports, absolutely sports, congressional and public hearings. Okay, it's time to take them real seriously. Stadiums and teachers. So this full moon that we had on the 6th, just a few hours ago, emphasizes that and is looking, since it's Saturn, and Saturn rules Aquarius, and that is our midheaven in the United States chart, and Saturn's on the 9th cusp, as well as the 8th cusp, 8th house, death, other people's money. 8th house in a mundane chart, I slip death in there because it's a possibility, as well as a resurrection. Long distance, long range communication, the higher mind, the bigger picture, and the executive branch of the government. Just let that sink in, okay? Now, we have a new moon on April 20th, and it's a solar eclipse. And it's in 29 degrees, 50 minutes of Aries, 10 more minutes, and it would be in Taurus. So it's right on the Aries Taurus cusp. It too, like the sun, of course, because a new moon is a conjunction of the sun and the moon. I just lost my train of thought. I was trying to, just bear with me for a second here. On the new moon, which is an eclipse, energy starts growing. However, the new moon is in that 12th house of hidden enemies, of everything I read off earlier. Lots of negotiating behind the scenes. And the new moon, the solar eclipse, sits on the anti-vertex, which means we can do something about this. Now, an eclipse lasts, not the actual eclipse itself, but the quote unquote effects of the eclipse last at least 1 year, probably 2 years. And so we can do something about behind the scenes activities and that type of thing. That goes on all the time in government, because we do have to allow certain people to be able to move freely to gather information. And so governments have secrets. I'm sure all you grown-ups out there know that. If you don't, governments have secrets. But this is very interesting. This particular eclipse, once again, sits in that 12th house. It triggers, it forms what is called a grand square from the 12th house on the anti-vertex to the vertex, to the south node, to the north node. It forms a square. And all the line, think of it as a table with 4 legs. All the legs of the table are activated. First of all, our 3rd house is activated. This deals with communication, with news, with reporters, with the mail, with public opinion, with traffic, oh my God, and travel, all forms of communication, of course, books, newspapers, neighborhood matters, schools, and public transportation. Oh, the biggest thing I think is communication, of course, news and reporters. Very, very interesting to see how different channels present the news. Okay. And this is neighborhoods. This is local communication. 9th house, this is the south node, and the nodes work together, of course. Higher education, the upper courts. Oh, you mean the Supreme Court? Yeah, the Supreme Court. Foreign travel, religion, the clergy, advertising, science. I mentioned the Supreme Court, but that was only twice. Let me do it a 3rd time. The Supreme Court, okay. Our philosophy, world trade, and of course, universities. And the eclipse also activates the vertex. This is our karmic role in life. In a mundane chart, it's the vertex in the 6th house says that our role, right, is involves the military, our health, the country's health, our jobs, civil servants, pets, animals, food prices, right? And police and fire department. This is what has been triggered, and it will be with us for at least a year. It'll be at its peak. Usually eclipses are at their peak 3 to 4 months after they occur, and they do occur in pairs. The next pair will, the part of the pair will be in May, and I'll go over that, of course, with you in May. But this particular eclipse, all kind of behind the scenes activity. Okay. Next planet. Mercury. Oh boy, oh boy. Well, Mercury moves into the shadow of the retrograde on the 7th. We're already feeling it. When Mercury's in the shadow of the retrograde, it feels just like Mercury is retrograde, which means we do not start a new project when Mercury's retrograde. I mean, when it's in the shadow, we can start a new project, like a new job, buy a new car, that type of thing. But things are so confused because when Mercury's in the shadow, it feels like it's retro. It feels like it's retrograde. And every loose end you had tucked away in a corner emerges to be dealt with. Mercury will go retrograde on the 21st. Now it's going to stay retrograde till some point in May. I don't want to get into May right now, but I will, of course, let you know next month, of course. When Mercury's retrograde, everything is confused. Arguments can start very easily because there are miscommunications. A simple miscommunication is something like you make an appointment with a dear friend for lunch on a certain day at a certain time. Your friend puts it on their calendar on the wrong date, and you go to the wrong restaurant. This is a perfect example of it. What do? You laugh it off. Poor Mercury becomes our scapegoat for a while. It goes retrograde 3 times a year. I mean, I hope this explains to you why so often you're confused and you can't get hold of people and they're not hearing you. And just to make sure, double check Mercury, okay? All right, so Mercury sits on our anti-vertex, and Mercury is communication. It's not action, it's ideas. It will be on our anti-vertex. I can't read my own handwriting, guys. Give me a second here. On the 5th, so it already is in the shadow of the retrograde, which just cracks me up. I mean, really, excuse me. There's a Mercury thing I'm looking at here. So now Venus is the pink planet. It's love, it's beauty, it's money, it's happiness. It is in our 12th house. Now you might say, wait a second. Didn't you just say that the 12th house was criminals and bribery and whatever? Yeah, and it's money too. Not the 12th house, but Venus. But Venus is love. And yes, it is beauty. So there may be a certain amount of bribery going on. I mean, come on, kids. We're big boys and girls, okay? We know for a government to function, there are some things that are going to be private, like, I don't know, private papers that need to remain private, that might be taken from the White House, documents that are classified. That's what we're talking about here. I'm not even going to comment on taking classified documents from the White House because you feel that you're entitled to them. Oh, did I really say that? Yeah, I did. Okay, so Venus is spreading money, perhaps, but love, a certain amount of cooperation. This is great. On the 17th, it moves into the 1st house of the United States chart. Now, in a personal chart, in your beautiful birth chart, the 1st house is your appearance and your personality. In the United States chart or any country's chart, it rules the attitude of the people, the political mood of the people. It also rules public health because it is the body of the people, not just their physical body, but it is the body politic. If I may just, I couldn't resist. It's sitting in the 1st house by the 17th. Well, it sits on Uranus, the rebel, the great awakener, on the 18th, and Uranus rules the president. And so what I'm seeing here is there could be a certain out with the old, in with the new, bust loose feeling on the part of the people because of the president. And it would be a positive thing. Though what I've seen, and maybe you have too, is that just because I might think it's positive doesn't mean the whole world does. Haven't you noticed? We are so at odds with each other. We can't predict, well, people are going to love this. No, not necessarily. But this is more uplifting, or can be. On the 29th, Venus, love, sits on Mars, war. But it softens it. It becomes passion. Now, does this mean there won't be any shootings? No, it doesn't. And we would have to work out a great deal behind the scenes to get the gun laws changed. Could we stop the bribery coming that has been behind the scenes, of course, relating to guns and ammunition? I don't know. But it does improve when Venus is in the first house. All right. Last chart. And I'm only doing the fast moving planets, so please don't write me. What about Pluto? What about Saturn? What about Neptune? I've already done those planets for the whole year in past videos. What I'm doing deals with more details. So Jupiter, the great benefic, is abundance. Yeah, it's money for sure. Absolutely, it is money, but it's God's law. And you might say, wait, the 11th house is Congress. You mean God is there in Congress? I know you're being facetious, but this can expand the outlook of our congressional leaders. No, not all of them. Not all of them. When some of them speak, I just wonder how they got elected. But to their constituents, they speak. All right? I'm serious. Just because I don't live in their district doesn't mean that their constituents don't love them. You see what I'm saying? We're all entitled to our opinion. Everybody. Even if it doesn't agree with you. We have that right. Okay. So Jupiter in Congress can be incredibly valuable. And remember that 11th house rules Congress and our representatives, the Treasury, legislation of all types, city and county councils, and friends. On the 19th and 20th, it takes 2 days because Jupiter moves more slowly. Jupiter moves into that 12th house of behind the scenes activities, bribery, spies, hidden enemies, welfare, secrets, and it expands them. There's more going on behind the scenes in April, simply because of everything, well, because Jupiter is there, but because of what has transpired most recently with the arrest of the former president. All right, Mars. Wherever Mars is, that's action. That's what we fight with and fight for. Well, the second house, let me read you the second house. Money, our earnings, our savings, our finances, the stock exchange, banks, debts of a personal nature, and commerce and trade. Wherever Mars is, that's what you fight with and fight for. Well, from the 1st until the 19th, Mars sits on Venus. Venus in the second house brings money. Now, look at this realistically, okay? Don't say, make your desires realistic so you're not disappointed. Mars focuses on abundance because the two benefics, the two good guys of the zodiac, which are Venus and Jupiter, they're in the second house of money. And they are triggered now. And this is going to help our income. Now, is it going to affect and help interest rates? Not really sure that we can count on that yet. However, Mars also sits on the sun, the giver of life. And that means that there is, I have to look at the US chart. Yes, there is more money. And I'm talking about money that comes from real estate. And you might say, you know, a month from now, well, where was all that money? Well, how much money were you thinking about? Everything is relative. We're dealing with millions of people. And of course, April 15th is tax day. It would be great if everybody got a refund. That is more than likely not going to happen. However, with Mars in that second house of money, it activates our incomes. And we are putting our attention on it. I mean, we're fighting for it. And I hope when I say we're fighting for, you don't think I mean with a gun. He who lives by the sword dies by the sword. I'm saying we're putting our attention on it and it grows. Whatever you put your attention on grows. In the United States, that's what's happening with our monies. Yay. I think I'll end it on that note because it's a positive. I always like to have something positive and something to look forward to. So please join me next month when, once again, we take a look at the United States chart. There is another eclipse in May because, you know, they occur in pairs. So join me next month. And I want to mention this. A lot of people have asked me if I'm still helping people get their life's mission. Yes, I am. Just go to my website, MaxineTaylor.com, and look under the spiritual coaching tab. When you know your mission, I mean, you see your pathway. You've got a handle on why you're here. It doesn't take long. It's face to face. We get to talk to each other. I get to see you. So this would be a great time, especially with income tax due. What is your mission in life? I'll help you find it. It takes very little time. Okay? So till we meet again next month, may the stars shine brightly on you and yours. Bye for now, my dear friends.